£815 million. That is the total amount of money spent this transfer window in the Premier League, and at least 3/4 of it was spent by this man's club, Chelsea. We're back with another episode of One Kick from Glory. We've got a lot to talk about. It's been some dodgy stuff, well, not dodgy, but some clever accounting going on, but we're going to get into all of that very shortly. I'm joined, as always, by Matthew.
Hello.
Craig.
Yeah.
And Markus is here with us too.
Hey.
We're going to jump right into the transfer window. It's been an exciting time. It's a time of year that most fans look forward to. It's like Christmas for nerds, really, for football nerds to see, who's going to pick up the best bargains, who's going to spend what money, who's going to move where. Are any young, promising superstars going to get their dream move, and are any veterans going to get moved along? And of course, as always the case, who will Chelsea pick up? It turns out that was quite a consistent question for us all to be asking them. I guess my first question is, I'm going to go around everyone before we get into the nitty-gritty of what happened this window, because there's a lot to talk about, and we're going to get through it all the stuff that's relevant to us. There's a lot of transfers, and some of them I just couldn't care less. Unless it's for fancy football, then different story. But I want to start with you, Matthew. Looking at your squad that could literally fill a 747. How happy are you with your squad right now?
I mean, talk about taking some kind of action. You can't wake up out of your bed every morning and there's not a player we're linked to, or already signed someone, or he signed another two. So I'm well aware, first and foremost, we got a lot of injuries. I'm just going to say that we got a lot of injuries still waiting for people to come back. It's not an excuse, it's a fact. We've also got players who were left off the book, so thanks for taking one of ours. We've got many more to come. But you want to see, do you call it ambition? Do you call it desperation? Or do you call it some kind of hostile takeover on our club that are trying to go and do something completely new and just absolutely just storm the league or the Premier League? I don't know. We haven't been this active in this kind of window for a very long time. We're talking literally nearly 10 players signing onto this club. So if anything for you, if you can't keep up, I can't keep up every single day. But I'm just wondering, I mean, first of all, it's progress. It's looking forward to the future. We're moving on, tying on to these long contracts, which is one of the main things that we're doing. I only have two real questions. Is it going to work? And how much involvement does Mr. Potter have in all of these signings? Because it's very much seen as it is. I've heard more from Todd Boehly in these last few weeks than I have from him. So is it a case of him taking the pressure off of Potter when it comes to the press stuff? Is he just watching his children play FIFA or Football Manager at the same time signing all these players? I mean, who really, really knows? But it's a strangely worrying and exciting time, because I don't know what's going to come ahead until the first game on Friday against Fulham. They're set, and we only played them a couple of weeks ago. So they're effectively going to be playing a brand new team come this window. So it's going to be interesting to see how all these guys will step in and fit in the bill. Because they're all under 30, they're all young, tied down to massive contracts. So something's got to give. But I'm intrigued to see. I'll be watching that game on Friday with a very close eye.
Okay.
I'm quite excited, actually.
All right. And as for you, Craig, are you happy with the Arsenal team going to the rest of the season?
Yeah. We made the signs that we need to make. Well, not the Jorginho one, but yeah. Trossard was a good signing. I like Trossard. The new defender that we got as well. He looks like he would be a decent backup to Gabriel. We loaned out the Congo as well, so that's good to boost his confidence as well, give him some game time. So yeah, so hopefully stay top of the league and win the league now.
Okay. And Markus, how are you with Liverpool squad going into the rest of the season?
Yeah, delighted. Not happy. It's not been a good window. Obviously Gapco is a good signing, but as seems to be the case, Liverpool have failed to strengthen where they need to, and being so far off the pace, it's quite concerning.
Yeah, we'll touch on the lack of business done in a little bit. Like I said, we're going to be dissecting this window as best as we can. Now, there's been a lot of deals that was done across the rest of the league. Oh, I forgot to say myself. I'm actually quite happy with what Arsenal's done. I think we've learnt a massive lesson from last season where we didn't get the business done in January. We had our plan A, and plan A wouldn't answer his phone. Now you're stuck in a club that might get relegated. So we didn't have a plan B. We didn't really shuffle fast enough. And I think they have been very proactive this window in moving to the alternative options. Now, again, we're going to talk about this a bit more. There's a lot to say about it. And fan sentiment is definitely split. This feels like a Wenger out all over again split. With how this window has been managed, but we're going to get into that. And I think both sides have valid points, but I think the argument can be presented where both sides there's a complete statement with both sides' point of views added together. We're going to try and get there by the end. Looking across the rest of the league, I mean, like Nottingham Forest have made a lot of signings. There's been a lot of business happening across the rest of the Premier League. I'll start with you, Matthew. Which team do you think has really impressed you with the business they've done?
I'm like the look of what I don't think they're signing many a player, but it's where they're going, and as of yesterday, knowing where they're going now, it's hard not to think of how Newcastle are doing with their signing. Well, the main one being Anthony Gordon, which is one of the signings we didn't get, funny enough. So we did get beaten to at least one, but they've got a Carabao Cup final in mind cemented. They've got a charge for the top four cemented as well. Mm-hmm. They're pulling in someone who is young as well, who's from a club that needs that kind of cash to spread around. And there's still, it's another option on there. It's another option to a growing and emerging squad. Like, so it's one of the only highlight players that they've done, but it's hard to, it's a good bit of business on their part because I did talk to one Newcastle fan the other day, and he said it's a bit more than he'd like to pay, but it's a good signing nonetheless. Also want to shout out to Nottingham Forest. They're probably doing something similar to what we are, just trying to get up that table as best as they are. And they've got a Carabao Cup final, semi-final today, but when you've got Premier League survival at stake, is that really the priority? I'm not so sure. Palace, they did a bit shrewd business taking off Lukonga on loan. I think they found that out today. I found out a funny one was when Doherty went to flaming Atletico Madrid, which I did not see coming. But yeah, I'll stick to my main one, which I think is going to be Newcastle and Forest. Even Leeds had a decent...
Ask for one. You're saying too many teams, bro. Give us all a chance, man. You're taking away answers, bro.
I'll stick with Newcastle. Why not? I'll stick with them.
Newcastle. Craig, which teams impressed you with their business outside the traditional top six? Who's impressed you?
Leeds. I say Leeds. They brought in Winston McKennie. Played in the Champions League, played in the World Cup. Good centre midfield player. And they got him on loan till the end of the season. Or did they buy one? I think the loan to 30 million. Yeah. And they bought that winger as well from Germany. He looked decent the other day in the FA Cup. So I think Leeds has done some good business. Yeah,
they're slowly building an American core, which could be quite useful. I think McKennie and Adams played really well at the World Cup together in the midfield three. So that could be interesting to see in the league. So, yeah.
Who else?
One team's fine.
Oh, cool.
Markus, what team outside the top six has really impressed you with their business this window?
Yeah, I think for me, Brighton actually. The fact that they kept hold of Caicedo, I think was a pretty big deal with the you two boys, Chelsea and Arsenal, chasing him. I think keeping hold of him at least till the summer was a great piece of business from Brighton. They just stuck their nails in. They sent him home and said, "Look, mate, come back in February. We'll see you then." It's great business for Brighton because Caicedo will go up in value. He's not going to lose any value between now and the summer. And if anything, there'll be more teams interested come the summer. So I think for Brighton, that's good business whilst they're in their hunt for their highest ever Premier League finish. And then brought in a couple of youngsters in Ayari from AIK and Buonanotte, the types of players that, again, no one's ever heard of that'll be worth 50 million in six months. So I think Brighton have done some shrewd business this window, including who they could keep. And I actually think getting Trossard out of the door isn't a bad bit of business for Brighton. He was unhappy at the club. He wanted to leave. He was in the final year of his contract. All in all, to bank 20+ million for a player that doesn't want to be there, I think is pretty good business.
Yeah, I think that was a good point about the business they've been done. I think for me, I would set with Nottingham Forest. I'm quite impressed with what they've done. They made a lot of signings, to be fair to them, and I do think it's often a bit tricky when you add in that churn. But I think for me, I was quite impressed that they managed to pull off Keylor Navas.
He did.
Yeah, they got him in as a backup. Well, obviously cover right now for injured Dean Henderson. But for me, I think he's comfortably going to push to be first choice at their club. And they've got a lot of interesting players. And I think John Joe Selvey as well, as a Premier League midfielder, serviceable player who's got a lot of quality to his game. You know, he's not played a lot last few seasons due to injury, but I like that he got a nice send-off last night at St James's Park. Went back to say goodbye to the fans, and I think that his quality will definitely help them. He's also a player that I've rated quite nicely. He's got good technical ability, great range of passing. Consistency can be a bit hit and miss, but when he's on it, and I think for them, if they get 10, like the rest of the season, you get 10 good games out of 19 from John Joe Selvey, that might be enough. And, you know, we're going to go into the standings of the league a bit later, but I think it's quite interesting to see how all the teams are quite poised, because I'm quite surprised by Forest's current position. It's actually a lot higher than I thought it would be, and I think that bodes quite well for them. Now, to start off the podcast, we talked about the total spend of money in the Premier League this window, and we know one club in particular have been a great contributory factor to that number. Of course, they are the wonderful Chelsea, wonderful in air quotes, the pride of London, self-confessed pride of London. No one gave them that title. They just gave it to themselves. You call it self-love, you call it delusions of grandeur, but whichever way you want to put it. Now, I have to take a step back, because when as this window is unfolded, as we all know, Mykhailo Mudryk was a player that, as Arsenal, we were very much excited to get. He was twerking for Arsenal. I've never seen a player be so desperate to join a club in all my life. It's borderline pathetic. But anyway, it didn't work out. Ended up going to the Blues. You had a better package of a deal for the selling club, and obviously, I think his wages probably was a bit more than what we were going to offer. And I was a bit upset with you guys from that point on, and I'm not gonna lie, I've had a bit of an eye on you guys. See it all a bit sideways, like, what is this Chelsea nonsense club doing? However, when you take a step back, and I want to start with you on this one, Markus, before we come to the Chelsea fan, when you take a step back at the business that Boehly has done, is it crooked manipulation, or is it just that a man who's shown us all a new way of doing transfer business that probably no one had thought was possible in the European market? I want to start with you, Markus, on this one.
Yeah, look, I think the thing that we have to accept is that Chelsea are going to benefit where everyone else is going to suffer when it comes down to this reality, because one team can do it, and you can do it once, and then financial fair play will come in and they'll change their rules and their regulations to make sure it can't happen again, and every other team won't be able to do the same thing that Chelsea's done. And I think that was seen quite clearly in the Enzo Fernandez deal, when, we heard somewhere with about a week left that Chelsea had not been able to strike a deal with Enzo Fernandez. And we also heard Financial Fair Play talking about how come the summer they was going to change some of the regulations and make it not possible to do these types of deals. And then all of a sudden Todd Boehly decided to get back on his plane to Benfica and offer 120 million to Benfica for Enzo Fernandez and get that deal across the line, because he knew he wouldn't be able to get that deal across the line come the summer with the same package, with the same situation, with the same setup of only paying 13 million on Financial Fair Play a year. And look, like, whilst we can sit here and as other clubs be frustrated at it, I think it's really shrewd business to some extent, and it's just going out and building the team that he wants. I think the question marks are always there. Are they Potter players? Are there players that are building towards a system or an idea? The reality is there are a lot of good players, and any decent manager you would hope would be able to come in and be like, right, we'll make the most out of these players. And Potter is a very, very good young manager who I would hope would be able to do that. But I think, the door's been closed on this loophole, and, the next loophole will come next summer, and, the next team will figure out how to expose the next loophole of financial fair play, because it's just really utter nonsense and always has been. But I don't think Chelsea have done anything overly wrong in the way they've approached it. I think they've spent a lot of money. The only thing that pains me as a Liverpool fan is the fact that Chelsea have spent £100 million more money in the last year than we've spent in the last 10. So, when you want to talk about competition, Chelsea are spending 600 million in 1 year, and we've spent 500 million in 10 years on transfers. And that's a Liverpool fan being upset about the difference in, comparison of money spent, let alone Nottingham Forest, Leicester, Brighton, Palace, pick your team. So yeah, there are some of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I like that summation. I do think that number of the amount they've spent, in one window is more than you spent in 10 years. I think that's quite endemic of the madness, or you could say you call it the multiversal strategy of Todd Boehly, who's playing 4D chess with everyone. Who knows? Maybe Todd Boehly will create his own Super League come next season, just off Chelsea players. For you, Matthew, like with the window now closed, and like I said, you're happy with the squad. You're curious to see how it's going to pan out. A couple of your players weren't able to go out on loan. Ziyech, that loan collapsed because of some incompetence by your staff behind the scenes. Same with Amari Hutchinson. He's now stuck there, had a loan lined up. How do you feel about the way in which, Boehly's gone about doing this for business?
Ruthless. And it's ruthless. And there's one thing in a thing like this, football, as much as it is a sport, as we know now for the last, say, 20 years, it's as much as business now. And the more people are getting involved from different parts of the world, from America, from the UK, from the United Arab Emirates, from all around the world, all these Russian owners, whatever. It's now rolling there where now it's now a thing you can play a game with it and get that money back in return. I want to take people back 20 years. 20 years from, I think, this year, 2023 to 2003. This is not a strange thing to us. We've been here before. And just so happened, I remember seeing a picture a few days ago where it was Mourinho with Abramovich, with all the new players that kind of started rolling in. You're talking Jeremy, you're talking Crespo, you're talking Makaleli, you're talking Kesman, you're talking Ferreira, you're talking Ricardo Carvalho, you're talking Drogba even. At the time when you were talking about 24 million for a striker was a lot, when now for the same price, you can get 5 players for the price of one Enzo Fernandez. So this is nothing new that we haven't done before. But I think as a Markus saying, I'm not going to blow the horn saying we're the best. Obviously going to say that we're the best. But the best will do this. They will push the limits of a rule book to suit, like Markus said, to suit their own prerogative, but they won't go over that line. So they will manipulate it to make it work for them. They'll study that book very, very hard. So maybe there's another side that we don't know. Maybe he's read this FFP book so well, cover to cover, line for line, not taking anything for granted to realize what can be done, because we won't be able to do it again. So what we should see possibly is that we shouldn't need to buy any players in the summer, but we're probably going to loan or preferably sell a lot of people. They didn't say that we couldn't do that. We can sell a lot of players. And it goes back to what I'm saying about the best people will, if you ask the best, they will have some kind of way of not breaking the rules, but just finding the holes in them. Maybe just reading just very, very small sentences. I guarantee people like Fergie would have done it. He would have known. For those of you who know rallying history, there's a team called Lancia, an Italian company. They know how to do it. If you read if you read some of the things that they did to help win their races, it'll blow your mind. And they did it up until a point where they couldn't get away with it. Hell, even the great Sir Lewis Hamilton knew how to push that FIA rulebook to its absolute maximum to help him win, get that advantage, to know that there's a very good chance I'll never be able to do this again. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it now. So, and it just goes to prove there are no friends of football anymore. So, it's cruel. It's mean. It's selfish, but that's business.
I wouldn't even use the words cruel. Definitely is selfish. I think for me is that it really messes up the market going forward, because now what you're going to have is smaller clubs who have an asset, who maybe traditionally you might have gone for like a cheeky 30 million, 35, maybe at a push, promising player, maybe get a 30 million. They're now going to be saying, well, we want to get a 60 or 70. I mean, let's using the great example Markus mentioned of Cody Gakpo to Liverpool this past window, right? If that same deal is being done now, as in later on in the window, after all those dealings that Chelsea have done, I would be very hard pushed to see PSV justifying the amount that they received for him. Now, I think it's a great deal for all parties. I think PSV have got a record fee. Liverpool have got a great value for a player that's got high upsell and a player that is going to take a bit more time to adapt to the league, which is fine. But I think if I was PSV looking at the market right now, sitting back, I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute. We only got 34 million. Anthony cost what he cost. Mudryk cost what he cost, and we only got 30. Like, I would feel a bit type of way right now. That's not to say that's not anything against the deal that Liverpool and them have done. Because I think, again, like I said, in context, it's a great deal. It's a fair value. It's a great deal. It's a value that the player of his caliber should be getting priced at. You know, all the market's crazy, but when you look at everything else, it's going to make teams feel a certain way. For you, just this final point on Chelsea, when you look at these dealings, I'm glad Matthew brought up 2004, almost, you know, that wonderful time period when the before, you know, times before Roman, when things were quite nice, and then he came in and just ruined everything. Do you think now that, like, what's your thoughts on the dealings of Chelsea have done?
Crazy spending. They're just going. It's like. Let me listen an analogy. Like, I play FIFA at home. Like playing career mode and going on to transfer and like have 500 million, buy whoever you want. There's crazy spending on players. Like FIFA career mode.
Like how you play FIFA career mode.
Sometimes. but in true honesty though, like if this project has to work, because if it doesn't work, then it could look very. So all the players that brought in have to hit the ground running straight away, or else it'd be a failure. You put players on 8-year contracts. So if they don't, say for instance, Mudryk doesn't fulfill his potential in the 8 years in the 3-4 years at Chelsea, you're gonna have a lot of money wasted on him on big wages, and then what are you gonna do?
But it's not only that. The flip side of it is this. I'm gonna use Enzo Fernandez as an example, right? If Enzo Fernandez has an average rest of the season, like averaging like 5 out of 10 performances, a couple of 6 out of 10s, right? Which is okay under normal circumstances. The problem then is, for any other club, let's say Caicedo as a counterpoint, if he has it starts dropping 7, 8 out of 10s from now to the end of the season, when it comes down to the summer, when, you know, when a club wants to approach Brighton to buy him, Brighton will say, well, look, Enzo Fernandez was worth this much, and this is what he put out. You know, we had some bids for Caicedo back in the winter, which we didn't think was enough. We want 150 for Caicedo because he's done this. Yeah. Comparing both players in the same time span in the league, he's delivered 7, 8 out of 10s, and Fernandez has done 5 and 6 out of 10s. That's the other side of these transfers, which is where it really could get messed up.
But then again, if you look at it like that, like even Declan Rice at West Ham, like he's definitely going to be going in the summer. West Ham can demand big money from him because obviously he had a good World Cup. He's their captain.
Yep.
He's an academy player. He's British tax.
Yep.
And they can say, well, he could be a future. He could say, for example, he goes to a big club. He could win maybe a big trophy. He could win the league or Champions League, whatever he wants. He could win, and the West Ham are going to be fully compensated. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the values of players doesn't make any sense anymore.
The other side to this particular point that you're making, though, with Chelsea, that I think is often forgotten, is the potential of these players. If Enzo Fernandez or Mykhailo Mudryk perform to the level where they become one of the world's best players at 25, then Chelsea are not going to be in a weak position when it comes down to these players being wanted by Real Madrid or Barcelona or any big club, because they're going to be on 5-year deals. So, 6-year deals. Whereas, if they'd have signed them on a typical 3.5, 4-year, 5-year contract, then they're in a weaker position in 3-4 years time when, these players have brilliant, performances, become some of the best potential players in the world, are wanted by other big clubs and are able to go on free contracts. So the nature of the contracts being longer means you get them beyond their peak, which I think is, other than obviously financial fair play, which was the whole purpose of it, that there is some wisdom in wanting your best stars to be tied down on long contracts beyond their peak years. You don't want to be losing your best players when they're turning 25, 26, because they've got 1 year or 2 years left on their contract and they can demand to leave.
Definitely,
Yeah.
I agree with you that because like even with Arsenal at the moment as well, like when we used to lose our best players, like we had them on 5-year contracts, then they do well, they struggle first 2 years, then they get better and better. Then the last 2 years of their contract was struck like with Saka, the Saka example right now. Saka and William Saliba have got 2 years left on their contract, and it's like, when are you going to sign the contract? Not if, when you're going to sign it. And they could say at the end of the season, like, you know what, I might not want to stay. So it's very, you have to, as you said, it's good that Chelsea did when it comes to the long contracts. Maybe Arsenal take a leaf out their book and get their players on bigger long contracts in future.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there, Markus. I think Chelsea have done the right thing to protect their assets from a business perspective. But it's a two-way thing, because you don't want to be lumbered with players that you got like we had with Meza and that generation of players where you stuck with them because the wages you have them on, which is you're going to have to pay them a lot to get them to secure them on a long-term contract like that. The benefit is then, like for example with Mudryk, if you're Chelsea, if he really, like Markus says, hits his potential, contract, what renegotiation? I want more money. What more money? You got 6 years left, baby. We don't have to give you a pay rise. Yeah, we don't have to give you a pay rise. There's no value in giving you a pay rise. That's it.
Yeah.
I get that point there, Markus. Just one other thing quickly back to you before we move on from this club that is just talking about them is making me sick. But do you think now this puts a massive pressure on Graham Potter to get a tune out of those players?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Like, this season, you could almost argue is a bit of a write-off. Chelsea may not finish top 4. They're so far off the pace. There are so many other clubs that you would think, even if Chelsea had a very strong end to the season, they may not end top 4. But starting next season, he's going to have had pre-season with his players. He's going to have had £330 million of January transfers, plus the other £300 million of transfers that were spent last summer, plus whatever else is spent, in the coming summer. Chelsea have to be competing for the title next year. It's that simple. There's no ifs and buts about it. The expectations are going to be there. He's going to have to perform, and he'll either be able to do it or he won't. But there won't be a lot of patience for being 10th at Christmas. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's true. I was thinking about like what you said about there, how the pressure's on him. So I think it's kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's almost as if it's a showing how it's saying that I've got you all of this. I've potentially broken maybe 1 or 2 rules along the way to do this for you. So you now owe me to get some kind of result. Just get, do what, get somewhere this season. First game on Friday, Fulham. Got a brand new team from the last game. Get somewhere. But next season is your time where you get that full year to kind of go ahead and do your thing. So I think, Potter's got to look at this and be like, I respect the fact you're working with a team that's all over the place, that dates back 4 or 5 years, especially in the midfield. So this is what I am giving you. Work with it, or I will find someone that will. Because he's not as I don't think he is as showmanship as Roman, but he kind of acts in the same kind of ruthless, kind of pragmatic kind of way. I reckon if he was going to get rid of Potter, I think he might do it quite nicely. But still, I get that kind of vibe.
How do you fire someone nicely?
Todd Boehly knows how.
Take him out to a restaurant
with a smile.
New York pizza. That's what Americans do, innit? We'll give them cheese. I like doing that. I don't know.
Yes. All right. So yeah, I think lots of interesting things to see. I mean, I feel like the Premier League now we've got a great storyline set up for the rest of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Obviously, we've got this massive potential with Chelsea, this potential red herring of all these squad players being upset. People like Ziyech, he wanted to move on. He's stuck there now. We'll see how that plays out. And obviously trying to figure out who makes Champions League squad. It's going to be quite interesting. But speaking of players and transfers and that, I want to start with you, Craig. Now, question I want to ask you all, same question. It's quite an interesting one because I feel like, we've all had mixed bags of this transfer window. I think we can all say that we've got putting Chelsea to one side. We've gotten the business done that needed to be done, but maybe there was room for improvement. some of us maybe a lot more room for improvement. I think we can safely say that there was some business done that was good business, but room for improvement. However, on that note, I'm starting with you, Craig. If you could take a player that's transferred to a club, you can swap any player from another club with someone in your current club. However, you cannot swap a transferred player in for another. So, for example, you couldn't swap Mudryk for Trossard, but you could swap Mudryk for someone else. Who would you swap? Any player that's transferred in from any club, who would you swap for an Arsenal player and why? It's a hard one.
It's a hard one. It's very hard. Onga for somebody.
He's not here right now. So it has to be someone that's in the current squad.
In the current squad, yeah.
And you can pick...
Rob Holding.
Okay, who are you bringing in instead?
That Chelsea defender, I like him.
Badiashile.
I think he's better than Rob Holding. 100% better than Rob Holding. Sorry, Rob.
That's an easy one. Matthew, who would you pick?
Who would I have in?
Yeah, who would you have in and who would you have out? But bearing in mind, you can't pick any of the players you've signed as you're out.
Oh, that's easy.
Go on.
Chelsea getting to make more signings.
Jesus for Aubameyang. Oof.
Easy.
Good luck with that one.
We have a way.
And for you, Mark, who would you pick as your player in and who would you player out?
Enzo Fernandez for Naby Keita.
Oh, that's a nice one.
That's a nice one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Well, I'm going to pick the obvious upgrade because it's clearly... Oh, no, maybe not. I guess it has to be a transfer. Yeah, it does work. Yeah. Oh, it's got me thinking now.
I just went for the most obvious one.
Oh, no. That's not too difficult. So the player I'm going to bring in, Mikhailo Mudryk. He was supposed to be at the carpet anyway. And the player that gets sacrificed is Reece Nelson.
Ooh.
With a cop out there, I picked a very easy option because there's not really, I don't think any Arsenal fan would argue with that swap. And who knows, in 2 seasons' time, Mikhailo Mudryk, he might be playing red and white. Never going to rule that one out. Since Chelsea love doing business with us, a cut price deal, £35 million. And Granit Xhaka, that's a great deal in 2 seasons.
Granit Xhaka? Not even Thomas Partey. Oh, not even El Neni.
No.
2 years' time, I think that's a great swap deal. All right, so now is the big one. So obviously, it's going to be hard to review. I want to start with you, Markus. I want to hear everyone's combined 11 from our current team. So, yeah. What would be a combined 11 of Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea players? Gosh, that's going to be...
That is going to be tough.
I don't know who I have in goal.
The tricky thing about it is that I think depending on how or what parameters you set, you could kind of go in a few different ways, right? So we're starting the season, everyone's fit, you've got one season, which team do you pick? That's one team. You've got the team for the next 5 to 7 years, that's the next one. And then you've got kind of based on what they've done over the last 2 or 3 years, kind of leading into present, right? So they're the kind of 3 different kind of things that are spinning through my head as I consider this dynamic. And I don't know if you want me to just run through the team I picked, or if you want to go position by position and we all kind of give our kind of thoughts position by position. What do you prefer?
Let's fire through your team, and then once we've heard it, we'll debate if we want to keep or stick or twist.
Yeah. Stick or twist. All right.
Okay, cool.
All right,
okay.
Who have you got?
Cool. So goalkeeper, I've gone in the typical Arsenal 4-3-3 formation. Goalkeeper, Alisson.
Yeah, I agree.
Right back, Trent.
Oh.
Obviously, Reece James is a big debate for that one, which we can have, but I think he's overrated. So Trent, right back, left back, Robbo, centre backs, Virgil van Dijk and Saliba. Midfield 3, Thomas Partey, Odegaard, Enzo Fernandez. Attacking 3, Saka, down the right, Salah through the middle, and Martinelli on the left.
Interesting. A
All
good
right.
team.
Okay, all right. So before we pick apart that team, do you have an alternative team, Matthew, that you would like to suggest?
Slightly. So
Who you got in goal?
I'm gonna start with Special K in goal.
Who's Special K? Kepa.
Special K.
Leave him. Let's pick his team.
I just wanted to be sure I heard the right information.
I'm
not judging his team.
Get my pen and paper out.
Maybe I should judge that team. But anyway, carry on.
This is
And just in
not
case,
not just Chelsea.
It is a combined team. Just want to make sure.
Combined team.
We're on the same page.
So go with that. Actually, can I make a slight change? Let me start again.
No, keep Kepa.
Okay, keep him. I'm gonna have my boy Reece on the right. After that, it gets really difficult.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take at the back. I'm going to take Thiago and Saliba at the back.
Okay.
On the left, I am going to have. I'm gonna have who's your left at Arsenal again?
Zinchenko or Kieran Tierney.
Zinchenko, I'm taking him. Thank you very much. In the middle, I'm gonna take Enzo. I will take Odegaard. I'm not gonna lie. And this could be anyone, right? Just combine, literally.
Is it combined? You got a lot of players to choose from, just from your own team. But
I'm gonna go with the engine. I know he's got his foot out the door. I'm gonna go with the engine with that. Is Kante? Why not? And then in the front, we're gonna go with Jesus. I'm going to go with.
Which side, left or right?
On the left, on the right, I'm going to have Saka.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very hard to ignore Saka. Very hard to ignore.
I feel like that team is quite offensive to me. But anyway, Craig, who have you got? Because I feel offended for players that didn't make the list.
In goal, like out of the three goalkeepers out of Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, I'm going to go Alisson.
Okay.
I think he's been a very good goalkeeper for Liverpool over the years.
Right back.
Right back. Between Trent and
You gotta pick one. I don't care who
Trent
it's
and Reece James.
Pick one, bruv. Don't be Southgate. Pick one.
Oh God. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick Reece James.
Okay.
And centre back is gonna be Saliba and Thiago Silva. And left back, Shevchenko. Centre mid, Partey. Thiago and Odegaard.
And your front three?
Saka on the right, Salah on the left, and awful strikers. Jesus for the middle.
Oh, wow. All right.
Routine.
Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to keep mine nice and simple. In goal, going for Alisson. I just think he's, irrespective of what kind of a season's going on around him, he's still constantly performing. Right back, I'm going to keep it Liverpool. Trent. I remember we had a discussion about this, Markus, at your house, and obviously time has passed and my opinion on the matter has changed because we were talking about combined Invincibles versus current squad, and he was shocked by my choice at right back. I picked Lee Dixon. But I have my reasons, all right? But obviously, I have a different perspective now since it's based on the current day. In the middle, I'm going for Virgil alongside his young G, William Saliba. I just think that just covers you both aerially and along the ground. Left back, I'm actually... before I answer my left back, we need to choose a manager to manage this team. So I want to start with you, Markus. Who's your coach? Klopp? Who's your Potter or Arteta? Because that will determine a lot.
Yeah, Klopp. Based on just who's the best coach, it has to be Klopp. I think obviously Arteta is very young and upcoming, but Klopp has just already done everything in the game. So I'd pick Klopp.
Matthew?
Klopp as well.
Craig?
Arteta, because he's a young manager and he's hungry, so I say Arteta.
Let's go in Arteta, You know what? I'm actually going to stick with my coach as well. That's probably a bit foolish, but I think seeing a little bit of questionable signs from the Liverpool manager at the moment, but, it's not fair. Left back, Zinchenko, as a result. Central midfield, keep it nice and simple. Thomas Partey, standard. Next to him, we've got Ødegaard. And I'm actually going to go with Fabinho. Because I just think this, why not? Right. Ooh. Yeah. Saka. My guy has to be in there. Left. I'm actually... I like Martinelli, I do. It's weird. They're just like, you're starting to think about players,
Really, it's tough because of all the players.
Wow. Okay. Left, I'm going to go Martinelli. And then left, I'm going to go for Mohamed Salah. And then centre forward for this team, I'm actually going to go with Darwin Núñez,
Okay. Wow.
There we go.
Off that one.
Good stuff.
Got to keep you on your toes. All right, so I think it's a good, nice mix of players. I want to debate Matthew's one a bit because
It's just so hard. It was hard.
because I think
to be quick.
now to be fair, I think having Darwin Núñez as a centre forward in a combined Arsenal, Chelsea, and Liverpool 11 is a very controversial considering what he's done so far this season. However, for me, I think the team I've put on paper, with the chances that he's missed this season, this team would create enough volume where he'll get into the rhythm, which he had pre-World Cup. So I think he would comfortably get that goal-scoring touch back. I like how Markus put Salah through the middle. I think that's a very clever way of maximising players. I contemplated that, but I didn't want to copy you, so I just had to cop out at the last minute. But let's talk about Mikhailo Mudryk making your squad. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going on. We have to see how these guys are going to do. I'm going off of, why not? Let's see what he's able to prove. He's only had really one game to kind of show what he's done, and he did all right in the first game. Very boring, by the way, from what I can remember it. No, what do you think, Markus, of our game last week? Boring?
Yeah, the game was boring. Mudryk looked bright.
Yeah.
He had some nice dribbles and a couple of chances. He looks like a bright player who's got quite a bit of potential. There's not a chance in a million miles I'm putting him anywhere close to the squad. I'd put Luis Diaz in the squad before him. I would put Gakpo in the squad before him.
Pulisic.
I'd put Jota in the squad
really?
before him.
America.
These are players that have all came to the Premier League and actually done something already.
That's true.
Bar Gakpo, who did more in Holland than Mudryk did in Ukraine, right? So on that basis, I think give it 6 months, could be a different squad. But then also, this is the beauty of it, right? That if we go back 6 months, Jurgen Klopp was a manager that was literally 2 games away from winning the quadruple. We'd lost the Champions League final to Madrid. We'd lost the league by a point. We'd won the two league trophies. Liverpool was on a high. Everybody was raving about the club, saying how unlucky they were and how they was arguably, up there with Man City as the best team in England. And to be honest, you have to give that 6 months the credit. Clive, you put Fabinho in your team. I think Fabinho is the biggest player that's fallen off a cliff in this last 6 months. The guy came on at the last Liverpool game there and barely looked like he could even walk. Should have been sent off after 5 minutes for a brutal tackle because he was miles away from the ball, and genuinely has gone from being one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League to maybe the worst. I think Núñez up front's a great shout, to be honest. In terms of typical striker, I think he's probably the best out-and-out striker that the 3 teams have. But yeah, and I can see the call for Zinchenko at fullback too. I'm not completely blind on that. I think Robertson is just so consistent for Liverpool, but Zinchenko has been brilliant for Arsenal this season too.
I think what's interesting about our squads is that there's quite a few players that we've all picked consistently across the board. There's a few outliers, but I think the players that all 3 of us have picked in our squads is Odegaard, Saliba,
Saka.
and Bukayo Saka. Of those three, who would we say is the best?
Alpha, Saka.
Odegaard or Saliba? Because we've all picked them in our combined 11s. We've all picked.
When it comes to goals, I'll say Saka. When it comes to creativity, I say Odegaard. When it comes to defending, I'll say...
Who's the best?
Odegaard. Biggest impact.
Clean sweep. There's no need for a debate there. That's wonderful.
Wait, one thing I was going to say, Markus, you know you're saying that, look, like this season Liverpool was struggling after almost winning 4 trophies last season. One word. Is that Bayern Munich? Mane.
Like Suarez.
Mane.
I don't buy that anymore. I once upon a time, I might have kind of leaned into that. But, you know, having watched Liverpool play, for me, I think it simply comes down to the fact that you were so close to making history. So close. Like, as Pep will say, so close. So close. And you didn't make it for factors completely outside of your control. Like the Champions League final. It's really funny because my mum came and watched like about 10 minutes of it. And she just walked in, she just watched the game. She was like, they're just tiring them out. That's what she said. And she was referring to Real Madrid, while they were sitting back and let Liverpool just run. You pummeled them in that first. You annihilated them on the pitch in the first half. You just didn't get the second goal. And
second goal? Didn't they?
Okay. Yeah, they went 1-0 up.
Yeah. Liverpool got 1-0 up in that final on Markus.
No, we lost 1-0, no?
Sorry, you didn't score. I take it back. You didn't score. But you know, Salah, another day that Salah shot he had would have gone in. Courtois somehow, but you know what? He read all the. You know, this is the problem with the media. I've said it last week. You're responsible for a lot of pain. A lot of pain. Because of the reputation Courtois has in the UK, he was just like, I'm going to show them how good I am. So he stepped up way above the level he should be playing at. And that's the reason why he did the heroics. I think if he was gassed up like a Manuel Neuer or like Oblak, he might have had a dodgy game. Laid a few dodgy goals.
So why was he getting that media flat though?
They just don't rate him. And he took it personally. He took it really
what, Chelsea fan didn't rate or the media?
Media in general in the UK do not rate. When they would say who's your top 5 goalkeepers or best Premier League goalkeepers in the last few years, his name was never in contention. It's never been in contention. It's always Cech, Schmeichel, Alisson, Van der Sar. You don't hear Courtois mentioned. And it's just like, hold on a minute, but
he won 2 titles for them, didn't he?
Exactly, but his name's not mentioned. So he took it personally.
It might be a thing with De Bruyne's misses. They might hold him against him. Not that as the points.
Well.
That's not the point. That's not the point. I'm with you here. Like he did do bits for us after Czech, after him as well, taking on that mantle. There's respect. And last year, that Champions League run, he was instrumental. So respect needs to be put on this guy's name.
And even in the debate for who's the best goalkeeper in the world, he wasn't. He's almost like he's picked because he's at Real Madrid, not because he's actually one.
Because he's good.
I think he's third best in the world. I would say.
You don't remember him Atletico Madrid before he came to us?
Behind Alisson Edison.
Yeah. Alisson Edison, then Oblak.
See, even he would feel like I should be number 2.
Oblak?
No. Courtois.
I think Courtois is better than Edison.
I would think so too.
Well, this season or in general?
In general.
Overall.
He's suspect. Edison, he's good, but he's suspect at times.
Edison just falls asleep on the ball.
But this season, Edison's been important.
No, all the time. It's just the difference. He doesn't get punished. Any game, a team presses Man City, watch him at the back. He'll give you a chance. It's just that teams don't punish him. That's
why in the World Cup, Alisson was number 1, hands down number 1.
He's the best Brazilian goalkeeper. It's not even. I used to think it was a bit closer, and then I watched them both up class. Like, it's not close.
when it comes to titles, Edison's won more titles than Alisson, hands down. I mean, Premier League and whatever, but. When it comes to the big one,
Danny Simpson's won more.
Alisson's a better.
Danny Simpson's won more than Harry Kane. Is he a better player? No,
that's where that argument.
No, but Alisson's won the hoops, isn't it?
If you put it in the way,
Edison hasn't won the hoops yet.
Wes Brown's won more Champions League than Buffon.
Is he a better
player? He's won more Champions League than Ronaldo Nazario.
There we go.
That's a hard. That's a debate for another day.
It always gets interesting, but I'm glad we're bringing up classic players because actually my final question to everyone along the notion of players and combined 11s. I think it was quite interesting, those players. And I'm curious to see how, come the end of the season, will we still pick this combined 11? And we're going to do this on our last podcast for this season. We're going to pick a combined 11 based on the season's form.
All right, cool.
So how the season ends, we're going to pick, because obviously these teams, I've kind of gone based on what the player's capable of, not just on form. It's been a mixture of form for some players and others based on ability. Because if it's based on form, Fabinho should not be seeing my team. If it's based on form, you could argue Nunes shouldn't be seeing my team. But anyway, I'm glad you mentioned 2004. 04, then we had 05, 06, our last years at Highbury. Beautiful stadium, beautiful time. The Emirates Stadium has been getting a nice little revamping on the outside. They've been putting up more of the stadium artwork. The Highbury artwork's not up yet, but it's coming very soon. It's looking beautiful. They've got 4 out of the 8 pieces up. I say all of that to say this, and we were talking about the Roman invasion and everything. And I want to say this for each of our teams, right? If we could bring back one player from the Emirates era, now I'm talking from 2007 to present, if you could bring one player back to your team, who would you pick and why? And for Arsenal, you cannot choose Omri or Gilberto.
Who can I not pick?
There's no restrictions. It's just Arsenal in particular. You cannot pick Omri or Gilberto. You can pick any other player because they're technically not Emirates era. Their era was Highbury. Even though they both played at the Emirates, it doesn't count. I know, it's a tough one. So from 2007 to present, if you
I got 2 players, but I only can do one.
All right. Pick your one.
Has to be Sex, man.
Okay.
Select Fabregas when he was at the Emirates, he balled out for us.
And then who does he displace in the current starting 11?
Xhaka.
Cool. Cesc in, Xhaka out. Matthew, any player from 07 to present, and who they displace in the current team?
07.
Yeah.
So it can be after 07.
Any player from 07 forward to the present day.
Oh, right.
And who do they displace from your team? It's really hard because there's a lot of players.
I could go bait and say Hazard for all the obvious reasons, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go for a player that, for the limited talent he had, he'd pop up out of nowhere and give us a goal. He'd deputise really, really well. It'd be really odd.
Go for it.
And he probably won't agree. Solomon Kalou.
And who does he replace in your current starting 11?
I Havertz.
Wow.
Because Solomon Kalou, for the lack of talent that he had, the one thing he would do, he let it all hang out on the pitch. He wasn't very good, but he was effective. You'd put him on, the guy would score goals, he'd run for the club, he'd do whatever. He was a nuisance. He was and he loved playing he loved it. He wore the thing on his shoulders, because that was a time of pride where we were part of the conversation and all the players there would listen to each other. They all had their right voices and they'd pull there is a reason when he was in the club for, I think, 4, 5, 6 years, we never finished outside the top 4. Never finished. I think the lowest we finished was like 3rd. We're always near enough in that title picture. We won FA Cups, Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, League Cups. We're always in that kind of picture with players like that weren't the best, but would wear the badge on their shoulders, their hearts, their hands, everything. And, if there was no Drogba, he'd step in and score a couple goals.
Well,
Considering you could have had Drogba, Lampard, I mean...
But that's bait, man. Baiting, man. Come on. Let's be different, man. Let's be different.
But to be fair, Solomon Kalou was a good player for Chelsea, though.
He wasn't very good, but you know what? Him a lot.
It's fine.
He was all right.
I'm not saying he wasn't a good player, but if you could pick anyone, you pick Solomon Kalou. That's all I have to say. Markus, who would you bring back for Liverpool?
One thing I will say on that particular point is I almost had a heart attack when Matthew said that. So I googled Solomon Kalou. And I was surprised when I saw that in the Premier League, he got a combined 65 goals and assists in 156 games. That's a lot better than I expected. I'm not going to lie.
Matthew, you're right.
Now, I know you're baiting and switching and picking a player that's like out there, and you could have just gone Drogba, but fair play. You've been different. I have no intention of being different at all. Obviously, Liverpool's problems are an absolute mess in midfield, and I would take back our captain, our leader. And we would probably have no problems ever again if we had Stevie G back in the middle of our park. So it would definitely be Stevie G. If you wanted me to be slightly different, I'm still going midfield, and I would go Alonso. But there you go.
Yeah, I think those are 2 great options. I think for me, it's pretty straightforward who I'm going to pick, because I look at the Arsenal squad and I look at what's one position that I think which a player from that era could come in and instantly make the biggest difference above anyone, and it's got to be centre forward, and I'm picking Robin van Persie. It's the one area in the 11 I think,
That's what I thought about him, but I thought the way how he left Arsenal, I thought, nah.
I don't mind how he left us. He snaked us. It is what it is, isn't it? But he'd be the one player I'd bring in, just because I think he just would have the single biggest impact on the team. Everything else is pretty well set, but that's the one position I think, bring him back. Just, I'm giving Xhaka a lot of props, because he could have brought in back a cheeky Arshavin. I could have asked for like a Nasri. Could have had a Riziki in there. Could have even had a fit and healthy Jack Wilshere. Santi could have come back in. But I just think with what the team is doing right now in the league, I think if you were to add Robin van Persie to this team, I don't think any Arsenal fan would be worried.
Win the league, guaranteed.
I think our main concern will be, if Partey got injured. But even if Partey was injured and you had Van Persie up front, who would care? Jorginho comes in, long ball to Van Persie. Happy days.
Go.
Happy days. I think we're going to call it a wrap there. I would want to... Although, actually, last thing I want to say. Last thing. Premier League table right now. Obviously, top six, pretty nice looking, pretty Arsenal at the top. Man City, Newcastle, Man United, Tottenham. Then we've got Brighton in sixth, Fulham, Brentford, and then Liverpool. Above Chelsea, with a game in hand, to Liverpool, so they could start to claw. To be fair, you're only 7 points off top of fifth. That's a weird way of saying it. 9 points off 10 points off Man United in fourth. So you're not too far off, You could go on a run, like Craig said, and claw it back. Chelsea in 10th, no one cares. 11th, Aston Villa, then Crystal Palace. Forest are 13th. It's a lot higher than I expected for them to be. And I'm thinking, and I'm going to say this on the podcast, I think Forest will stay up. I'm saying that for free. Leicester, Leeds, West Ham, Wolves, and the bottom three of Bournemouth, Everton, and Southampton. Do we think, as a final point, are Everton done for and are they going down? Matthew, yes or no?
I think they're going.
Craig, yes. Down or staying up?
Well, that's a good manager.
Down or staying up?
I'm 50-50.
Down or staying up? You've got to pick one.
I think they'll stay up.
Up. Marcus, down or staying up?
I think they'll stay up.
All right.
See?
I think they're going down. And that's where we'll end this week's podcast. We'll see if my prediction is wrong. We've got some big games coming up at Friday. Man United are currently playing the second leg of the Carabao Cup. Hopefully they'll meet Newcastle in the final. I am saying this and I'm going to stand by it. If Man United do not win that trophy, question marks need to be asked of Eric New Era Ten Hag. Otherwise, the banter era will continue and that suits us very well. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all guys next time. And ladies too.
Peace.
Peace.